Hi, I'm Patricia with Senior Connections Center. June 15th is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, and we are counting down to World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. Today, Linda Fales, Community Development Officer and former Vice President of Risk Management with Suncoast Credit Union, is here to tell us about how seniors and all of us can keep our finances safe. Linda, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, risk management, that's not something that a lot of people think about in relation to a credit union or a bank. Could you tell us a little bit more about what someone in risk management, what their role is?
Certainly. Risk management actually takes care of all of the risk or fraud related activities within the organization. And what happened at Suncoast was a number of years ago, we knew that cases that involved our seniors and our vulnerable adults, it required a different approach and investigative skill set. So in order to ensure that we were being the best stewards for that segment of our membership, we launched an initiative focusing on seniors and vulnerable adults. And through that initiative, we partnered with a variety of community partners and organizations that also had that same segment of our population at their heart and soul, the people that really help take care of those people, because we felt those were the people that could help us best help our members and have the greatest impact on the lives of those people and making the biggest difference in our community. So what happened for us, which is kind of unique, I guess you would say, for a financial institution, is to further that strategy, we realized because it required a special skill set, we needed a specialized position that would be the member's advocate for those members that were victims of scam or got into a situation where they didn't have someone to help them maneuver money issues. And it was in 2014, I believe, that we developed an actual position for a victim's advocate. And since then, we have grown to having two victims advocates. And that's all the cases they work is for that segment of our population.
I like that you use the word advocate, and a lot of times people don't think about credit unions or banks being their advocates, but they are and they can be. Can you share about a scenario where you intervened or Suncoast intervened to help somebody?
Certainly. What a lot of people don't understand is that financial crimes, they prey upon our seniors at alarming rates. In fact, financial crimes against our senior population and vulnerable adults is the fastest growing consumer fraud today. And of course, us being in the state of Florida, we actually are one of the states that has the highest rate of crimes against our seniors. And there are a number of reasons for that, but it's estimated that seniors lose about $36.5 billion a year in scams in some form of financial exploitation. But when you consider the fact that of those numbers, as big as they are, that typically only one case is reported, 44 are not. So if you stop and think about that for a minute, that means there are 44 additional cases out there not being reported. So just imagine what that number would be. Typically, we find that the victims are usually embarrassed or ashamed, and they don't want to tell anyone, and they usually don't even want to talk to their family members. So we've had a lot of success. I'm extremely proud to say we've had a number of arrests and criminal prosecutions. We've got some of these suspects are actually in jail for the crimes that they've committed against the elderly and our seniors, members. We recently had a case, and this is just very recent, where the member had dementia. One of the family members obtained a power of attorney. The senior member didn't really even have capacity to have granted the power of attorney to begin with, but this family member exploited her out of a tremendous amount of money, but not nearly as much as it would have been. But with the help of DCF and a lot of work, we now have this particular victim that's in a very safe place now. She's being well cared for. Her funds are, safe, and they're being handled by a court-appointed guardian. We had another case where a victim, was told to get a mortgage, an equity line against their home, to pay taxes on some lottery that they never even played. So there's a lot of things going on like that, and we've got a really good team that helps us catch it. We do training of our staff, our frontline staff, so they can be aware of the things to look for. So that's a big key for us as well.
It does take everyone, either in an organization or in a community, to keep our most vulnerable citizens safe. So what are some of the other common types of frauds or exploitation cases that you've seen involving the credit union's customers?
Probably one of the most predominant that we see, we call it a crime of the heart, which is a romance scam or a sweetheart scam. And this is where the member or the senior would meet someone through Facebook or a website, or sometimes it's even through the mail, believe it or not, or on the phone. And what happens is the fraudster builds a relationship with that person. So they don't scam them out of their money, within the first couple of weeks. They start talking to them. It's just like long distance dating, really. And they develop this relationship. Well, that relationship then creates a certain sense of trust, especially for a person that maybe doesn't have a lot of family around and they're lonely. That is the worst combination, because that person becomes so trusting. And typically, as I said, they don't ask for money up front. They build this relationship, and then a couple months down the road is when they start making the request for money to be wired or sent somewhere. A lot of times they say they have investments, they have land, they have gold, and they're asking the member or the senior to help pay the taxes or pay for it. That's one big one that we see very often. And that's probably one of the most difficult ones to convince a person that is so vested in this relationship they think they have. That's one of probably the most difficult ones to convince a person that it's not true, because they want it to be true so badly. Another one, is the typical sweepstakes lottery scam where they're being asked to pay for taxes ahead of time. Taxes will never be paid ahead of time. If there's any taxes to be taken, we all know that those are taken out at the time any type of lottery is issued. There's the Microsoft and computer scams, with a lot of seniors that are not as computer savvy as, some people, especially our younger generation today. They get alarmed and scared when they see some type of a message come up saying that your virus protection has expired, and they'll get a pop-up, and someone, amazingly enough, is there offering to help them fix their computer for a very low fee. But in reality, what happens is once that person communicates with them, they turn their access of their computer over to the fraudster, and then they have access to all of their information, any bills they may have paid on that computer, any of their addresses, their Facebook friends, their relatives. And then the next time a call is made to that member or that individual, they have a lot of background information on them, which would make the fact that they know them seem true. And then, of course, there's the typical grandparent scam where, a grandchild is being held in a prison somewhere and they need bail. I've always said, if one of my grandchildren were in jail somewhere, the first thing I'm going to do is call their mom and dad first. A lot of these members too have heard about these scams. They know about them, they've read about them, but they're always convinced that it's not me, I'm different, this could never happen to me. And that's the part that's very hard to kind of wrangle with all of this. And a lot of these victims are in denial. They're scared of the scammer, they're hopeful that they'll receive the money they've been promised. And then there comes the emotion of being embarrassed or hopeless devastated. They don't want their family to know, that kind of thing.
And you mentioned a couple of things that are common with a lot of scams, and that's isolation. Isolation is a risk factor for all types of abuse or neglect or exploitation.
It
And
is.
so many older adults, especially, are lonely and isolated. And fear of the
Exactly.
unknown. And that unknown can be technology, and that
Exactly.
unknown can be anything that just causes concern, and thinking with their hearts about their family members and who they love, and not with their heads about, yes, it could happen to me. Yes, this is something that I've learned about, and I need to be aware that I'm not uh, immune to some of those scams.
That's true. And the biggest thing about these particular scammers, they're really good at working on the psyche of people, right? And they truly are exploiting emotions. That is where they have the upper hand in everything they do, because and emotions are one of those really difficult things to maneuver, which is what makes these cases so hard for us when it comes to the investigation side and convincing the victims that, yes, you are a victim. I understand you trust this person, or I understand you're fearful of them, or I understand you're going to be guilty, you feel guilty if you don't send the money. There's all of these emotional feelings that's very hard for those individuals to overcome. And there's all those perceived actions of love or kindness, and I'm sending this money because I want to help someone else, or, and then there's, of course, the threats, and these scammers, they're relentless, and they don't like to take no for an answer, and they can become threatening. And the isolation and all of those things put together is combination for a very, very volatile situation where people don't know how to say no, and they don't know, it's hard for them to define the line between, I know that this isn't real and I know it's not right, and I feel like I shouldn't be doing this, but I feel like I've got to do it anyway, because what if this is real? What if my grandson is in prison in Mexico? What if I could win this $1 million? That's the hard part.
And we find that scammers take advantage of every opportunity, every uh, tragedy, every concern, every social issue. And especially with COVID-19, the pandemic, they are taking advantage of individuals. And what are some of those scams related to COVID-19 that you have seen?
They are offering the vaccines at a cost, and in reality, all they want is a credit card number or access to a person's personal information. They're offering test kits, air filters, and the list goes on, when in reality, all they want is personal information. There are also fake charity scams when it comes to things like COVID-19, because we all wanted to help, right? We all wanted to contribute to the cause, whether it's to fund for food or, face masks or whatever. And again, there's all these fake charities that are set up, and it's just to scam people and get money. Anytime there's a disaster, they're more prevalent. You can count on it.
Mm-hmm.
And these situations are ones that the scammers know it's easy to take advantage of people because they're so vulnerable and they're wanting to do good. And these are situations where all of us have to be on our guard, because they don't discriminate. They want money from whoever they can get it from. Unfortunately, it's our seniors and vulnerable adults that it tends to be easier to convince them and to get the money from them.
And that's a good point, that anyone can become a victim of a scam. Seniors are more likely to, for many reasons, but anyone can become a victim of a scam, because we all have emotions, we all have concerns, we all have fears. And with COVID-19, all of those things came out all at the same time. And
And
so many,
and
many scams have been related to COVID-19.
right,
And
and we all want to do good, right? We
yes,
all want to do good things, and we all want to make a difference, and we all want to think that our money is going to a good cause. So, and they know that. These
mhm,
scammers, they know that. And most of the time, these scammers are not even in the United States very often. I mean, often they're not, sometimes they are. And the other thing to keep in mind, and this just happened actually 2 weeks ago with my parents. My parents are in their 80s, and um, fraudsters can mask email addresses and phone numbers. And what I mean by that is they can have you can receive a phone call that looks like it's coming from Tampa Electric, for example, and it's really a scammer on the other end.
mhm.
And that's one thing that happened to my parents 2 weeks ago, because my mother called me and she says, "Oh my gosh, I got this call and I know it was a scam because I know my electric bill is up to date and I pay it early." And the person on the other end of the line said that my power was going to be cut off if I didn't contact them and send this money right away. And she says, "But the weird thing is it said it came from Tampa Electric and it was their phone number." I said, "Mom, Tampa Electric's not going to call you to shut off your power. They send you notices." And she says, "Well, I knew it was a scam." So we always tell people, if you get a call like that, don't give the responses to the person on the other end of the line. Hang up the phone and call the legitimate business yourself,
Right.
based upon the number that's on the bill that you receive, or you can even go to the internet and look up the legitimate
Mhm.
business and ask them.
That's a good point. Always call a known number, whether it's the one on the back of your credit card, the one on your bill, or the one that you find from a reliable source, not the one they leave a message for you.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
are there other ways that people can protect themselves and their finances from scams and frauds?
Absolutely. So you've heard the old saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it
Mhm.
probably is. That's the first thing that to continue to remember. I mean, if this really sounds too good to be true, I mean, does it really make sense? We always use the example, how could you have won $1 million lottery if you never played? How could you have, how could you have a gold mine over in, South Africa that is worth $1 billion that an heir of yours is leaving to you if you have no heirs that you even knew about over
Mhm.
it? Just say no and hang up the phone or delete the email, and don't click on pop-ups, and certainly don't respond to emails from people you do not know. Those are phishing scams. They want you to click on an attachment, and what'll happen is they'll take over your computer or respond to them, and they'll start hounding these people for information and will not leave them alone. And it becomes very scary for people at times because they can be very threatening. Never give out personal information or account number information over the phone, via text. If a company calls you for verification of something, they should have your account number. And I've had those calls myself, and I've turned around and said, "I don't know, why don't you tell me you called me?" You called me, you should have my information. Why are you asking me that information? One of the big things that our saying is, if you did not initiate, do not participate. And what I mean by that is, if someone calls and is wanting you to purchase gift cards or send wire transfers or Western Unions or money orders to someone completely random on the other side of the United States that you've never even met, that is a big warning sign.
Mhm.
That's a way to launder money. Same thing for cell phones or laptops or electronics. No one should ever be shipping that kind of stuff for someone they don't know. So if you didn't initiate the call, don't participate in what they're asking you, or participate in what they're asking you to do. And the other thing is, think about what you're being asked to do. If someone is telling you to do something, but then the flip side is they're also telling you to not to be truthful, about what you're doing, that in of itself is a warning sign.
Mhm.
For example, if they're telling you you need to go to your bank or credit union and wire $5,000 to X, but they're telling you, but if the bank asks, or the credit union or bank asks you why you're wiring it, tell them it's because you're fixing up your house. Or if your family members ask, tell them it's none of their business, there's a problem.
Right.
And the reason they don't want you talking about it or being truthful is because they know that other people will pick up the warning signs. The biggest thing is, if you're being asked to keep it a secret, then it can't be legitimate. There's no reason to keep something legitimate as a secret. I've always said too, repeat what's being asked of you, but repeat it out loud and listen to what you're being asked to do, and does it make sense? Follow your gut instinct. And there's always going and asking someone else their opinion before you jump into something that's risky. And that falls true to anything, whether you're making an investment or anything. Ask for another opinion. Go to a professional or get an opinion from someone else in that line of business. And probably the biggest one would be do a Google search on what you're being asked to do. And there'll be all kinds of information on those types of scams come up. But probably one of the biggest and best resources that we have is at our fingertips. And that's searching AARP and other senior advocacy websites like yours, and even law enforcement, about different fraud scams and how to identify them. That's a great source of information. Suncoast even has fraud and scam information out there that you can get. Most law enforcement websites have them, and go there. And if you find what you're being asked to do in specific detail, you can pretty much bet what you're being asked to do is a scam.
And as you pointed out so well today, your bank or credit union can be an advocate for you. You have questions about anything related to your accounts or what you're being asked to do, check with your bank.
Call and ask.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I like that. And if you didn't initiate, don't participate. That's good to remember. Linda,
Yes,
thank you so much for being with us today and sharing the information, such a valuable information to protect ourselves and the ones we love from scams and frauds. Senior Connection Center is proud that Suncoast Credit Union is one of our community partners, and we appreciate all you do for seniors in the community.
And we appreciate what you do as well. You are a treasured partner of ours and have been for years. And together, we can make a difference.
That's true. We are all in this together. And I want to remind everyone that June 15th is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. Wear purple. You may see some purple pinwheels or yard signs around your community. And join us for our virtual event. Check our Facebook page for more information on how to join that event at 10 o'clock, June 15th. And we are counting down to World Elder Abuse Awareness Day.